Welcome, Minneapolis College community, to our 2022 Indigenous Peoples Day, Day of Celebration and Recognition. For those that may not be aware what Indigenous Peoples Day is, it occurs on the second Monday of October every year, on the same day as what we previously have known as Columbus Day. Indigenous Peoples Day is an opportunity for us as a college campus, as a community, as a nation, as a world, to be able to honor and recognize the historical as well as the many ongoing contributions that have come from our Native and Indigenous communities. It is also an opportunity for us to be able to reflect on the atrocious acts of genocide and colonialism here in the Americas, but then also creating opportunities for us to be able to, as a campus community and individually, to be able to take personal acts to rectify those actions. And you can do so by educating yourself. You can do so by supporting local Native and Indigenous businesses and organizations and causes to be able to help continue to uplift and support our brothers and sisters from our Native and Indigenous communities. And so, once again, welcome to Minneapolis College's 2022 Indigenous Peoples Day. My name is Tremaine Lindsay. I am the Vice President of Equity and Inclusion. What we're going to do today is take a little bit of time to just have a conversation, a roundtable conversation dialogue around Indigenous Peoples Day. What does that mean to recognize and acknowledge it as a campus community? But then also for those that are here on our campus community, we have a few folks. I'll let them introduce themselves in just a second, to be able to talk about what Indigenous Peoples Day means to them personally, as an employee of the campus, two, as a student of the campus, but then also what does it mean for them community-wise as well. And so we'll take some space, and I'm going to allow our other guests to be able to introduce themselves.
Anin, Mashike Indigenous cause Asin, Ninduden, Nishnabwe, Askin, Nindu Jaba. Hi, my name is Adriana.
Hello, I'm Aubrey. I'm the American Indian Success Coordinator here at Minneapolis College. Welcome, excited for you all to join us for Indigenous Peoples Day 2022. I'm excited to be here.
Great. So again, today is a roundtable conversation. I've got a few questions that we'll pose out there and really give an opportunity to just have some dialogue. But the first question that I really want to pose out there is, this is more of a personal, individualized question. What does Indigenous Peoples Day mean to you?
For me, Indigenous Peoples Day means a lot to me. It's a day for me to remember and recognize the history of my people. I'm from Lower Brule Sioux tribe in South Dakota, so just always finding ways to connect with my family, elders on that day, just reflect and spread awareness to myself too, because the day is meant for that, for lots of people, but also reminding myself that I have a lot to learn, and I want to keep that culture and language going as well. And really just to be like, and it's proud to be Indigenous. It's something to, as a person of color, a person in marginalized community, represent different identities, oppressed identities. Sometimes there's days where you don't always feel super proud or super open to be yourself. And so it's always a reminder to connect with community and connect with others and other Indigenous people, and remember that you're beautiful, you're amazing, you're awesome, and it's to remember to be proud of being Indigenous. So.
Yeah. For me, it's definitely a day for family, relatives, distant relatives to come together, acknowledge even some of our friends that aren't Indigenous, to come together for ceremonies, celebrations, to be honored culturally is very exciting today for me.
So that's actually, thank you both for sharing. That's a perfect segue into our next question. One of the things that I really want to make sure that we make a point of, that though today is Indigenous Peoples Day and we're acknowledging it today, it shouldn't just be a one-day thing where we have that acknowledgement or that recognition. You kind of shared some things about Indigenous Peoples Day around family, and it's time to be able to be with family and time to be able to reflect. Can you think or share with us a little bit more on additional ways that you go about celebrating or acknowledging Indigenous Peoples Day?
For me, a lot of roles that I've been in, I'm in an American Indian Success role right now, so I'm lucky enough to be able to plan some of these events around the day, and connect with the campus community and the community within the Twin Cities and even further. So that's something that's always been a staple in my path in my career and educational journey. So I've been lucky to kind of celebrate in that way. Going through as a student, I would celebrate with the American Indian Cultural Center of the institution I was at. I get to celebrate this year with Minneapolis College and the community I've been building here. In other ways that I've celebrated would be, I think, just providing myself some education. I grew up not very connected to my culture. I felt strongly connected, but my grandmother moved her family off the reservation that she grew up on, and so we didn't have that direct knowledge all the time. She didn't share that with us often. So I've kind of been in search of that. So on the day, I always like to recognize whatever that may mean for me, just educating myself in my culture and my tribal history. And so that means a lot to me. And then also just connecting with family, connecting with other friends and family that celebrate the day as well.
For me, I'm excited as a first-year student at the MCTC to see what can I be involved with. But for my family in this day, my mother and my family usually will go out and collect medicine, sage, wild rice. We'll practice those things throughout the year, obviously seasonally, but important for that day to come together.
Cool. And I'm glad that you mentioned, being a first year student here at the college, because obviously, we're here and we're acknowledging and recognizing it as an institution. I think that is very important. And, within my role as the Vice President of Equity and Inclusion and our college's aspiration of being an anti-racist institution, I think it is very important to be able to not just acknowledge that these days exist on an individual level, but to be able to actively do some things to engage our campus community on these types of days, to continue to further that, one, educate ourselves, two, educate ourselves not just individually, but as a campus community. And so we're always encouraging folk to be able to do that. But as an institution, as a student of the institution, as an employee of the institution, both identifying as Native Indigenous, can you maybe share a little bit with us as far as on your end, right? We know that representation matters. And so on your end, as identifying within the Indigenous community, what is the significance of a place like a Minneapolis college recognizing, acknowledging, and celebrating days such as Indigenous Peoples Day?
For me, it's really important because I think being at Minneapolis College, I always, I work with students directly, supporting students. And so I want to hear their voice and obviously include their perspectives, but I think I also include the perspective of being a student, specifically Indigenous student going through higher education. And so seeing an institution, do that when I was a student and then now being at Minneapolis College in this role, I feel like that inner student of me in the past is being, in a way, fulfilled or just happy because that representation really does matter. And I hope that students feel that welcome and that the college is taking it as an importance of celebrating it, having different events for the community. So for the Indigenous community, but also outside of that, and for everyone to come together and be in community. Because for me, it's important. I celebrate it in this role, but then also outside of here. And so I think it's important for me to see that the college also, colleagues and other staff on campus, faculty, the community come in and take part in that and want to learn and want to be a part and celebrate and then also educate themselves as well on the day and what it means. That's important to see because essentially that's where we want to go forward with. We want to spread awareness. We want to spread education. We want to keep the culture alive. So.
For me, it's definitely exciting that Minneapolis College is participating in and actively being progressive about integrating Indigenous Peoples Day in their campus. Growing up, I definitely did not see people like me in higher, powerful positions, but I definitely think education, this is the start to create change and to create a movement for Indian people to become welcome in these positions that they were suppressed from.
So as we think about and you've both alluded to at multiple points throughout the discussion and the dialogue today, as far as not just the personal, not just the community here on campus, but the community at large. We think about the inclusion and inclusivity of fostering environments of inclusivity here, and making sure that we communicate to our community at large that this is a place that you belong here. We want to make sure that it is reflected in everything that we are doing as an institution. For those that may not identify as Native American, that may not identify as Indigenous, on a day like today, what would you hope that the broader campus community can be able to take from a day like today?
Being able to understand more of what the day is, what it might mean to, obviously there's going to be different perspectives represented today, and it's not going to speak for all Indigenous people around, but to get a more understanding, I think there's still a lot of people out there that don't fully understand what the day means, as we talk about the split divide of some states and locations not recognizing it as Indigenous Peoples Day, Native American Day. That's still happening, and in the recent years, states have just recently changed that. So that movement is still really important, knowing that we're still trying to shift that fully across our nation. So just really taking away that it's a celebration, and then also leaving the day not being your only time you're thinking about Indigenous Peoples Day or just the community, what we're fighting for, but also what is great about us, what is great about Indigenous communities, Indigenous people, the culture, the language, and the history. So leaving with a little bit of both, a balance for sure. There's a lot of great things to celebrate on that day, and there's also a lot to educate yourself throughout the year. And like you said, not limiting it to that day or that month. There's time to reflect and take part in these events and activities and throughout the whole year.
My hope is that the people that get to see us in our true identity that was suppressed for so long is that they get to see the happiness, the good, the genuine, organic, the way we treat our Mother Earth, and I hope that they get to collaborate with us in the future in land development properly and in a way that's going to benefit everybody and not strip the land.
And so, as we think about that, and we maybe think about a first step in that, Aubrey, do you mind sharing with us, sharing with our folk here at Minneapolis College, some ways that they can get involved throughout the day today? What are some things that you have in store for us today?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I hope that everyone enjoyed today and hearing from us in our discussion. But we do have more stuff going on today. Right after this, we will do an introduction of our land acknowledgement, and then we will move into an in-person event with traditional grass dancer, and drum group. And so that will be in person here at the Minneapolis College, and then we will have a panel discussion virtually over Zoom today. So join from anywhere. And that will be, the topic is higher education through an Indigenous lens, with 3 different professionals speaking on that panel.
For the theme to be higher education through an Indigenous lens allows for us to be able to hear from folk within the Indigenous community. So I'm definitely looking forward to that, and I hope all of you that are watching us this morning have an opportunity to be able to engage through some of the programming throughout the rest of the day. Aubrey, where can they find you?
So I am located in Helen Center, H 2600, And so you can find me there. Any students or staff or faculty, anyone that wants to connect more about the American Indian Success Program here, look forward to connecting with everyone.
We thank you and have a good day.
Minneapolis College recognizes that it was built on and currently occupies Dakota land. We also recognize that the state of Minnesota is the ancestral and contemporary homeland of the Dakota and Ojibwe Native nations.
We acknowledge that this land was obtained through violent acts of genocide, displacement, forced removal, and broken treaties. We understand that sovereign Native nations suffered terrible racial, social, and spiritual disparities through these acts of settler colonialism, and that despite these atrocious acts, Indigenous nations have continued the struggle to rise above mere survival and to honor the sacred earth and their ancestors.
Minneapolis College understands the privileges and benefits that we have been afforded from the past and present acts of violence, land theft, and attempted cultural genocide.
However, acknowledgement without action does not resolve the systematic oppression, injustice, and historical trauma faced by many Indigenous communities every day.
As an institution, we are committed to reconciling these acts by taking direct action in the decolonization of institutional structures that promote injustices, inequities, and other forms of white supremacy and systemic racism.
As a call to action, we invite you to further investigate the realities of this history, and we therefore personally commit to the advancement of our equity statement.
We acknowledge this painful history, and we honor and respect the 574 federally recognized Native nations that have been resilient and remain connected to the land today.
We ask that you join us in a moment of silence as we reflect and connect to the sacred land which we accompany.